Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at a double buffed Pokemon from the Season 26 balance update, and that is the double buff to Shadow Camerupt. Now these battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Thomasine, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now Camerupt gets access to two new charge attacks, Scorching Sands and Rock Tomb, and these are the cheapest charge attacks that Camerupt has ever learned, and means that for the first time ever it will be able to double up on charge attacks. Now Shadow Camerupt, it's still not meta by any means, but it is definitely meaningfully improved. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's go Shadow Camerupt. Hopping into the first match, picking up a terrible lead, Shadow Malamar into Wigglytuff. The safe switch into Shadow Camerupt, Wigglytuff staying on the field until they switch out at the last second and get a catch onto Jellicent. Jellicent will still take pretty massive damage from that Rock Tomb. Jellicent will be able to outpace by one singular turn, and that will force a shield out of the Camerupt. Camerupt is going to be immediately under-tapping, trying to apply a second debuff before any additional hex damage registers. The Jellicent actually no shields, and that's going to allow Camerupt to incinerate down. In comes Annihilate. Annihilate going to try for a farm down, but it's not going to get there. Oh no, did they CMP tie a Camerupt? They did CMP tie a Camerupt, and they end up shielding a Rock Tomb, so the Rage Fist doesn't even boost them, it just takes them back to their default attack stat. Back in comes the Malamar. Malamar going to be immediately hit with the Rage Fist. Rage Fist not going to be enough to threaten a shield out of the Malamar. And the moment the opponent switches into that Wigglytuff and tries to snipe, they are immediately shut down by Empoleon. The Camerupt flipping switch in the mid-game was absolutely everything, as Empoleon would have been destroyed by the Annihilate, but for now, the opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping into game number 2, picking up a pretty incredible lead, Shadow Malamar into Bastiodon. Opponent safe switches into Ludicolo. Malamar has so much energy. Malamar tried to throw one Psywave before there. It looked like there was a little bit of a stutter that unfortunately forced a throw on alignment. Ludicolo no shields, and Malamar luckily will make it to foul play number 2. This will force a shield out of the Ludicolo. Malamar gets the catch and sneak of the Weather Ball onto the Empoleon. Very nice play. But the opponent actually ended up full sending, and they're running Energy Ball. Leaf Storm typically the preferred move on Ludicolo, but some people do opt to run Energy Ball just so they don't debuff themselves. Opponent sends back in Bastiodon, but Bastiodon is not going to get a farm down before Empoleon leaves with a parting gift of a Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon inflicts big damage onto the Bastiodon. Bastiodon does get the farm down, but now back in comes the Shadow Malamar. Malamar is going to be shielding because you don't want there to be some kind of fast move pressure mon in the back that'll farm you down. In the back is a Gourgeist, and Gourgeist is just getting absolutely deleted by these Incinerates. Camerupt even going to be winning charge stack priority here with the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb knocks out the Gourgeist. All that's left in the back is the Bastiodon. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We've got some spice from the opponent in the next match. Shadow Malamar into Dragalge. Opponent is going to be safe switching into Shadow Gyarados. And Gyarados, behind by a turn, will CMP tie the Aqua Tail with the foul play. Now the Psywaves are going to be the thing to watch in this matchup because the Shadow Gyarados is getting absolutely torn to smithereens. Gyarados does not particularly care for this matchup. Aggressive pivot out into the Empoleon. Empoleon will look to threaten a knockout onto the Gyarados, as Gyarados has already lost quite a bit of its HP. Gyarados no shields, gets KO'd, maybe hoping to survive. They send in Morpeko. Oh no, this Morpeko is about to get demolished by the Camerupt that's lurking in the back. Morpeko farms up a ton of energy. Empoleon, do they decide to invest the shield? No, they're just going to let themselves get knocked out by the Aura Wheel. And it's time. In comes Shadow Camerupt. Shadow Camerupt, look at the Incinerates. In comes Dragalge, but Dragalge's just getting one shot by the Scorching Sands. There's no way it survives. Scorching Sands lands. Dragalge gets KO'd. Back in comes the Morpeko, but Morpeko is stuck on Psychic Fangs and Electric Aura Wheel. They go for the Psychic Fangs, and Camerupt just does not care. Camerupt incinerating down, and that's going to be another opponent top lefting. We move to game number 3, Shadow Malamar against Gliscor. This Gliscor is going to be running Wing Attack, its newly buffed fast move. Malamar firing off the foul play right away, just looking to land some damage onto the Gliscor. Gliscor does end up no shielding, and Gliscor has quite a lot of energy. Malamar going to be calling the bait, hoping it's not the acrobatics, and does get it right as the opponent does end up baiting with the Sand Tomb. Gliscor is able to outpace because Malamar did fire off the first foul play on alignment. Aggressive pivot into Camerupt, opponent ended up safe switching into their Licky Licky. Not the greatest timing there from the opponent, but they just presumably wanted to get some damage before the Rock Tomb was going to connect. Normally, I'm not a big fan of throwing on alignment, but with a Pokemon as glassy as Camerupt, it's probably worthwhile to get that debuff applied before any additional rollouts connect. Licky Licky will be able to outpace. It's debuffed. Can Camerupt hold on? Camerupt with the 1 HP survive, and that is going to allow Camerupt to make a second Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb lands, taking the knockout in the back. They have Wigglytuff, answered with the Empoleon. Gliscor gets farmed down, and the opponent is once again going to resign the match. We move to game number 5, looking for the 5-0 set, and what a way to start it, Shadow Malamar into the Jellicent. Now, Jellicent does play this matchup closer than it ever should. Malamar actually ends up CMP tying the Jellicent there, a very risky time to fire off a charge attack, but it ends up paying off as the opponent was throwing their energy immediately. Jellicent does end up going for a Surf Bait. Malamar will still be able to outpace here, as Malamar will fire off its charge attack as soon as it's available, as that will be on perfect timing. Foul Play lands, that does huge damage. Opponent save switches into Florges, and Florges will be immediately answered by Empoleon. If Florges is able to make 2 Trailblazes, then Empoleon can actually lose the zeros here, because even though Metal Sound hits for super effective, Hydro Cannon will not take the knockout. Hydro Cannon will get the Florges very low, but it appears they might not have a great IV Florges, as they don't make the move. In the back, they have Shadow Shelgon. This is not a fun Pokemon for the Shadow Camerupt to see, but luckily, Empoleon's able to get some pretty significant damage on it. Empoleon is also able to force out energy. Shelgon takes the knockout with Twister, and in comes Camerupt. Look at those Incinerates. Oh my goodness. Camerupt incinerating down everything. Jellicent top lefts, and that is going to be a 5-0 set. This trainer, oh my goodness. They have the full storage as well, getting to claim the full 5-0 set, and that is going to take them to rank 14. We now move to set number 2, Shadow Malamar into Empoleon. This matchup is not nearly as good as one might think for the Malamar, and that's because Empoleon wins charge attack priority, and in the 2 shield, Empoleon can land a Hydro Cannon and farm down without the Malamar ever landing a charge attack. So for Empoleon, this is always a very safe shield. Empoleon will do just that. Tomzine gonna pivot into the Camerupt. Opponent lets through an entire free Incinerate, and that is absolutely catastrophic for them. That is going to cost them. In comes the Gliscor, but Gliscor is just so far behind. Camerupt already almost at 2 Rock Tombs. The first Rock Tomb connects. That damage is criminal. Come on. I want nothing more than Camerupt to shield this and fully farm down. And that's exactly what Camerupt is going to do. Camerupt exiting with a ton of energy. It's Jellicent in the back. Camerupt going to go for the Rock Tomb. Can potentially look to go for the Scorching Sands if they shield it. The shield does come up. Camerupt, oh my goodness, saves the energy, gets the catch onto the Malamar, and that is a loaded Shadow Scorching Sands for later. Back in comes the Camerupt. Camerupt just going to go for debuffs, as his Jellicent is now going to be at -2. With the debuffs, does that allow Camerupt to make another move? No, it does not. Jellicent will get the Hex down. In comes Empoleon. Opponent will fire off energy, but they are double debuffed from the 2 Rock Tombs. That means Shadow Ball does basically nothing. Empoleon gonna watch for a catch. Opponent does not get it, and Empoleon gets the double up on Hydro Cannons. Hydro Cannon is gonna be knocking out the opposing Empoleon, and then all that's left is that Jellicent. The Jellicent should be in Drill Peck range, which means this game is once again a win. The opponent, not great with their timing in the Empoleon Camerupt matchup, and that cost them dearly. We move to the next match, picking up a pretty solid lead Shadow Malamar into Pidgeot. Pidgeot did get double buffed this season. Wing Attack got reverted, and it got access for the very first time to the newly reworked Heat Wave. Anytime I'm playing against Pidgeot, I typically like to always try and call the bait. These Pidgeots love nothing more than to go for air cutters. In this case, Tomzine tries to go for a catch onto Empoleon. Opponent holds onto the energy and instead connects with the Heat Wave. A second Heat Wave would miss the knockout, so Empoleon will be no shielding. Heat Wave lands, opponent pivots into Swampert, but Swampert is really not going to get a lot of farm, and this is a very important bait out. Hydro Cannon gets the shield, it's the Shadow Swampert at that, but Swampert did get a pretty big energy head start. Back in comes the Malamar. Malamar ends up playing to the CMP tie. Unfortunately, Malamar not going to win it. Malamar is forced to put up a shield. It desperately needs damage into the Swampert. Foul play does get shielded. It's clear the opponent has realized this Swampert is going to be a key to victory. Swampert is up energy, able to outpace. That forces the final shield away, and that's a pretty big problem, as there's a Camerupt in the back with no shields. But that is one way to get around it, saving a ton of energy on the Malamar and getting a catch and sneak onto the Camerupt. Unfortunately, these rollouts do enough damage that I think Body Slam will just be enough to secure the knockout here. It is going to be very close. Body Slam lands, Camerupt does not survive, and now it's all up to Malamar. Malamar farming to 100 energy, needing the superpower to take down Licky Licky. Malamar is very low, but has so much energy. In comes the Swampert. Swampert's getting hit with the superpower. This is debuffed, but it should be enough to take the knockout. All that's left in the back is the Pidgeot, and Malamar just 1v3'd. The Camerupt, unfortunately, was more of a damage sponge than anything, but Malamar takes 3 knockouts in a row, and the win streak continues. We see a terrible lead in the next match. Shadow Malamar into Bombardier. Bombardier does have a resistance to Psywave, and that is a pretty big problem for the Malamar. Foul Play Bait does get the shield. Bombardier is very glassy. A safe switch into Empoleon, and Bombardier, it's typically going to be running Fly and Rock Tomb, so this should be a pretty safe no-shield. Bombardier goes for the Rock Tomb. Opponent's going to be sending out Jirachi. Jirachi is a very cool Pokemon, but unfortunately for the opponent, Jirachi is an absolutely atrocious matchup against Malamar. Empoleon winning Charge Attack priority over Jirachi. I would have assumed that Jirachi won that Charge Attack priority tie. That just goes to show that I really do not know the Jirachi attack stat whatsoever. Jirachi takes the knockout with the Aura Sphere. In comes Camerupt. Camerupt pays a heavy price, but does get a 20 energy head start. Back in comes Bombardier. These sucker punches are shredding through the Camerupt. Camerupt puts up the shield, has to hope that even with the Rock Tomb debuff, the next Incinerate will take the KO. It does not. Camerupt loses almost its entire health bar, and the opponent has an Ivysaur in the back. I don't know what an Ivysaur is doing here, but I guess the answer is just losing. Bombardier Ivysaur core. I have officially seen it all. Rock Tomb forces the final shield. In comes Malamar. Malamar gets the Psywave down, and that's going to be a win as the win streak continues. These are early days in the season, so sometimes you'll run into opponents who just have completely crazy picks, and in that case, I was completely unprepared for Bombardier Ivysaur core. This looks like a more traditional team in the next match, leading into Altaria. An attempt at a Sky Attack catch goes awry. Opponent switches in the mirror, but that is not Metal Sound. They're on Waterfall on their Empoleon. I believe there was a few videos made on Waterfall Empoleon. I know Waterfall was buffed pretty significantly, but Metal Sound does offer Empoleon some pretty critical coverage. So I don't think I'm personally a believer in Waterfall Empoleon, although it feels like it would be some cool tech, so I would love to be proven wrong. Malamar is forced to burn a shield before it gets the Psywave down. The good news for Malamar, however, is that the Altaria has already taken a significant amount of damage. That means that Shadow Foul Play is going to be getting them very low. Malamar even makes it to Foul Play number 2. This will threaten the knockout onto the very low HP Altaria. Altaria just lets itself get KO'd to try and set up a Volt Switch Fortress just to get absolutely annihilated by Shadow Camerupt, and the win streak goes to 9. Up into the final match, and that is not what you want to see. Shadow Malamar into Morpeko. We potentially see a catch and sneak onto the Camerupt. Yes, we do. What a play. Catching the Aura Wheel. That still does huge double resistant damage, but importantly, sneaking through an entire Incinerate. Opponent sends in Shadow Marowak looking for a farm down, but as a direct consequence of the Mud Slap nerf, the Camerupt survives on 1 HP and is able to force a shield with Scorching Sands. In comes Shadow Malamar, more than happy to absorb the Bone Club, because Marowak, it is just not particularly good at farming things down anymore. Foul Play lands, Marowak, it's getting fully Psywave down, and the Malamar exits very close to a charge attack. In comes Dusknoir. Dusknoir does get the snipe down, but Empoleon should be in a pretty good spot to close out this game, because Empoleon does have quite a bit of residual energy. As long as Empoleon can always overfarm, then the Morpeko is going to be in a very tough spot. Empoleon fires off the Hydro Cannon. Dusknoir has to decide, is this worth the shield? Dusknoir says no. They're leaving it all up to Morpeko. Morpeko fires off the Psychic Fangs, but it's just too little too late. Even with the debuff, 2 more Thunder Shocks will not take the knockout, and that means that this is going to be a win, and this is going to be a 10-0 run with the newly buffed Shadow Camerupt. Hydro Cannon gets the shield. There's one more Hydro Cannon locked and loaded, and that's gonna do it. Empoleon takes down Morpeko, and that is a good game. Because this was a bit of a shorter battle submission, I do have one bonus battle that was actually me running Shadow Camerupt on stream, because Shadow Camerupt absolutely popped off. So, hopping to the final match, the bonus battle, and we get a very nice lead, leading Shelgon into Shadow Zapdos. Zapdos is not switching out, which is incredible news for me, because this is a pretty dominant win for Shelgon. Shelgon has amazing fast move pressure here, Twister easily threatens a knockout, and because I do resist Thunder Shocks, I think there's a very real chance that I can survive the Drill Peck. It's gonna be close, Drill Peck lands, Shelgon survives, and I'm able to make it to a second Twister. Now they have to give me the Zapdos KO or give me their final shield. And up 2 shields to 0, it's Camerupt time, so I save switch Camerupt, answered with a Toxapex, and oh boy, this is going to hurt. I'm firing off the Scorching Sands. That is probably the most single damage I've ever seen from one charge attack to a Toxapex. Toxapex is able to hold on, but that's honestly the worst case scenario for my opponent, because this just gives farm to the Camerupt. Camerupt exits with so much locked in energy. They have a Mudshot Shadow Diggersby in the back, and unfortunately this game is over. Diggersby takes devastating damage from the Scorching Sands. We make Scorching Sands number 2 before they're able to make their own Scorching Sands. That's going to take the knockout. This is going to be a full 1v3 by Camerupt. They have so much energy on the Zapdos, but I press shield, the Incinerate takes the knockout, and we're able to take the win. All in all, even though Shadow Camerupt may not be a meta Pokemon by any means, I do really like it when the developers try and make some very goofy mons have slightly more play in the meta. Like Shadow Camerupt, just purely off of its stats, it's never going to be like an absolute meta terror, but I really like when they try and take steps to make spicier picks have a bit more play, and giving Camerupt the ability to double up on both charge attacks is a definite step in the right direction. Rock Tomb helps it, even for a brief moment, artificially increase its complete lack of bulk. And while Scorching Sands may not debuff as much as it once did, Scorching Sands being able to double up is really nice because it just gives Camerupt significantly better synergy than it ever had. So the TLDR of it is Camerupt, it's still not an incredibly playable Pokemon, but I am very pleased with the fact that it is getting better because Camerupt, it's a Pokemon that has a bit of a soft spot in my heart. I can't remember what exactly the meta conditions were. I believe it was like a Dedenne meta, where there was a very brief time where it was like a very playable Open Great League Mon because Dedenne was completely walled by Camerupt, and Camerupt, I believe it was the Scizor, Dedenne, and Forretress meta, where like week 1, Camerupt was like actually a really good anti-meta Pokemon. So I like improving the kits of Mons like this, where even if they're not going to be amazingly strong currently, you kind of keep them with semi-relevant movesets just because meta conditions might shift to where it can actually be a very playable Mon down the road. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.